Welcome to A Life Without Parole. I usually do about 1 or 2 videos a week, keeping you updated on what happens in the Chad Daybell case. I was going to wait a couple of days and then recap 3 days in a row, but the problem is today there was so much that happened. So I just decided I'm going to give you a real quick snippet of what happened today. First of all, if you saw my video from yesterday, you'll know that I talked a lot about how animated Chad was on Monday and how he kept on smiling, a creepy smile when he shouldn't be smiling. Today, there were autopsy photos of his wife, Tammy, and certainly a smile would have been inappropriate. And I will say, maybe Pryor talked to him yesterday and said, "You got to get your act together and quit smiling." He was very back to his normal Chad behavior. He would talk to him and say things, but he was very stoic and tried to keep that grin off of his face. But he certainly couldn't muster up even a little bit of signs of remorse on his face or grieving or sadness. It's crazy. But that's just one topic. But I'm going to go fast today because I just want to cover all the main points. I'm going to give a roundabout of all the different things that came into court today. One thing that a lot of you commented on my post yesterday, and that was that there is stairs in the Daybell house because there's an add-on. And that was brought out by 2 different witnesses today. And Pryor did his best to try to say, well, there's no heat in there. It's not really, but as I showed pictures yesterday, there were beds in that upstairs room, so people could sleep there, and certainly that might be what Chad was trying to say, just to give distance from why he wasn't able to help his wife when she was coughing or whatever. He had so many different stories going on, so different times he said things. The other thing is when you look at the interview or the car when he was in the police car and he was talking to Emma out the window and that was all recorded. He talked about her going upstairs and getting something. So, upstairs is terminology he uses about his house. So, it wouldn't be out of character that that's what he's told in his story. Pryor tried to say bring out that when he was cross-examining the witness, do you know which room Tammy's room was? And they didn't. The one thing that I learned today, and I I guess I'm kind of happy to know this, and that is they testified. Both of the 2 witnesses that were friends of the Daybells testified at how distraught the children were, and most specifically Emma, about the loss of her mother. And that I hate to say I'm happy about it, but I kind of am, in that I see that at least for her mother, she did have care and there was care in her heart, and she was sad about her passing. And that seems more reasonable for someone who's not involved in possibly the death. So I've been wondering in my mind, was she involved? And now I really don't think she was. I don't think any of Chad's kids were. One of the other people that was on the stand was somebody who Chad was going to get health insurance from after Tammy died because he and his kids no longer had health insurance. And I think it's interesting that he was, at one point he's adding Lori, but he never adds Lori's kids. Of course not, because they are dead and he knows it. I think this is proving that. But one thing that I was thinking in my mind was, did he try to up the life insurance policies on any of his kids? Because if he did, they dodged a bullet. That was not discussed. Apparently, he didn't do that. So maybe he never had any intention of harming his kids, because it seems to me that anyone who gets harmed, there's some financial gain besides the fact that they're in the way. The doctor who performed the autopsy on Tammy was on the stand today, and that was a good portion of the morning. And I feel like for the first time in this whole trial, it's a lot of very strong evidence. And I don't know how Pryor will come back from that Tammy was murdered, not just accidental or sickness or whatever. And he brought out that it's not the herbs, it's not that she was low on iron or any of the things that uh, Pryor has tried to say into the testimony or get people to say. So yeah, it was really good witnesses today. The two friends of Chad's, it's a husband and wife, and they each testified separately, but they talked about different things that made them wonder, like the fact that Lori said, they go and Chad introduces Lori within days of Tammy dying and said that that's his new girlfriend, and they were thinking, oh, this doesn't seem right, just like the rest of us. And um, the first time that they met was at the temple. And I thought it was interesting that they brought out that if Chad had admitted that he was having an affair, would he be able to have a temple recommend and be able to go to the temple where Chad and Lori were going? And the answer was no. So obviously, Chad was deceiving people from his own church, which again, now we know he had his break off cult church, the Church of the Firstborn, but he was trying to pretend like he was still in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints when, in fact, if he had confessed all the things he was doing, much less the murders, but just the affairs alone and the multiple life beliefs and all that, that would get him excommunicated. So that was brought up today. It's interesting that Chad introduced Lori in the temple to these two friends of his, and they said that there was another one of Lori's friends, they said friends, with him, and her name was Melanie, which is Melanie Boudreau Pulowski. I have a whole bunch of questions about her. I feel like of all the people in Lori's inner circle, I still would love to see more evidence about her because I feel like she could possibly face charges in the future. How could she not know? How could she not know? She never bothered to say, "Hey, where's JJ? Where's Tylee?" So by the time they're meeting in the temple, Melanie is there, Lori's there, Chad's there, the children are not. You see what I'm saying? I think she has explaining to do. She didn't participate in Tylee and JJ's funeral, not with a note, not anything. Of course, her ex-husband, Brandon, did, but she did not. I mean, I just think there's a lot of things that are starting to add up against her. Okay, so like I said, this is just going to be a real quick, fast one, but I have a question for all of you out there. I have been following this case from the beginning. I have investigated everything that I can find. There's one thing that stumped me, and I'm curious if any of you might know the answer to this. And that is when Lori and Chad told Chad's friends that Lori had 7 children. Who is Lori talking about? Now, I know that she claims that Melanie, both Melanies, I think, were daughters from a previous life. So is that what she's talking about? But then she had multiple lives and she would have had lots more than 7 children if you're counting all the children, the so-called children from her multiple lives. I don't know. If you know the answer to that, I would love to hear it in the description. And also, how many of you think that today was a slam dunk for the prosecution? Let me know, thumbs up. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this out, and I will keep you up to date. See ya.